Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today we're going to be tackling ancient civilizations and some of the mysteries that they've left behind.
Oh yeah, some really fascinating stuff.
Absolutely. And to guide us on this journey, we're going to be looking at this paper called Mysteries of Antiquity, Unveiling the Enigma of Ancient Cultures.
Okay.
It's by Dr. Jayanta Kumar Dab.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be looking at all sorts of things like the pyramids, Stonehenge,
The Indus Valley
the
Civilization.
collapse of the Mayan civilization,
Yeah.
and even those enigmatic Nazca Lines.
Yeah, what's so interesting to me is how all of these mysteries are kind of like these big puzzles.
Yeah,
It makes you think about, human ingenuity and belief systems and like how we're connected to the cosmos.
for sure.
It's almost like these cultures, even though they were so far apart in like distance and time, they're all kind of asking the same questions.
Yeah,
And like their answers are still like challenging us today.
definitely. So let's start with what might be the most famous ancient mystery out there. The Great Pyramids of Giza. I mean, everyone knows about these huge structures, but have you ever thought about what they really mean?
It's one thing to just see like pictures of the Great Pyramid with its like 2.3 million limestone blocks.
Right.
But when you think about the precision that went into building it, that's what really blows my mind.
Yeah.
It's not just a pile of rocks. They aligned it perfectly with the cardinal directions, which tells us they knew a lot about astronomy and math.
Weird.
And this alignment, along with how the inside of the pyramid is structured, well, it's led some people to think that it wasn't just a tomb.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some think it might have been like a giant sundial or an observatory,
Wow.
or even like a representation of their whole cosmology.
You know, that reminds me of something I read about those shafts inside the pyramid, the ones that point at specific stars.
Right?
It's hard to believe that's just a coincidence.
Totally. And it's not just the alignment with the stars either. There are theories that say the whole layout of the Giza Plateau is connected to the constellation Orion.
Really?
Yeah, like they saw a deep connection between what was happening here on Earth and what was going on in the heavens.
Wow.
The Great Pyramid wasn't just about a pharaoh, it was a statement about where they fit in the whole universe.
It's amazing how these ancient cultures saw the cosmos as like a part of their lives, not something separate or distant.
Totally.
Okay, so from the pyramids of Egypt, let's go over to England, to the Salisbury Plain, where we find another ancient mystery, Stonehenge. What's the most striking thing about this monument to you?
For me, it's like you can see all the different layers of time and intention that went into building it.
Oh,
It
interesting.
wasn't like they just built it all at once. It took centuries.
Wow.
And every phase added something new and more complex. You start with this simple circular ditch and bank with those Aubrey holes. And we're still not sure what those were even for. But then they bring in the blue stones all the way from Wales,
Oh, wow.
which shows how important those stones must have been to them. And finally, those huge sarsen stones are put up, and we get the Stonehenge we all know today.
Incredible.
It really shows you how much humans have always wanted to connect with something bigger than themselves, something that lasts for generations.
I've always been fascinated by the theory that Stonehenge was like a giant calendar based on the stars. Is there any proof of that?
Oh, yeah. There's actually quite a bit of evidence. The most famous alignment is with the summer solstice. That's when the sun rises right over the heel-stone and shines right into the heart of the monument.
Amazing.
That suggests that Stonehenge was designed to mark that specific astronomical event. And, it probably had something to do with agriculture and fertility rituals, too.
Right, right. And what about that pathway that leads up to Stonehenge, the avenue? Didn't that have something to do with the moon?
Yeah, good point. The avenue, it lines up with the spot on the horizon where the moon rises during certain lunar events. So that means Stonehenge might have been a lunar calendar too.
Wow.
It let them keep track of the moon's cycles, which were probably just as important to them as the sun's cycles.
That's amazing to think that thousands of years ago, people were so in tune with the movements of the sun and moon, using them to mark time, guide their lives and maybe even connect with the divine. But of course, with Stonehenge, like a lot of these ancient mysteries, there are other interpretations too. What are some of the other theories about what it was for?
Some scholars believe it was mainly a place for ceremonies and rituals,
Okay.
maybe even healing. The circular shape, the way the stones are arranged, and the fact that there are burial mounds nearby all suggest that it was a very spiritual place.
That makes sense.
And, some people believe that the astronomy stuff and the ceremony stuff could both be true. Like maybe they celebrated their connection to the cosmos at Stonehenge, marking the solstices and equinoxes with these big rituals.
It's fascinating how these ancient places can have so many different meanings,
Yeah.
and how every generation sees them in their own way.
Absolutely. And speaking of seeing the past in different ways, let's move on to a civilization that presents us with a really interesting challenge about him, the Indus Valley Civilization.
Okay.
This culture thrived over 4,000 years ago in what's now Pakistan and India,
Right.
and they were really advanced. They had great urban planning, intricate sewage system, a booming trade network. But they left behind a mystery that's baffled scholars for centuries, an undeciphered script.
It's almost like they left us a message, but we can't read it. It's this glimpse into their world that we just can't quite grasp.
Exactly. It's like finding a library full of books packed with stories, histories, knowledge, but it's all written in a language you don't understand.
Oh, wow.
We have these symbols and characters on seals, pottery, and things like that, but we're still trying to figure out what they mean.
So what are some of the problems that researchers run into when they're trying to decipher this script? We've deciphered other ancient languages like Egyptian hieroglyphs and Linear B. So why is this one so hard?
Well, the Indus script is tricky for a few reasons. We don't have a Rosetta Stone for it like we did with Egyptian hieroglyphs.
Right.
There's no bilingual inscription to help us figure it out. The inscriptions we do have are really short, often just a few characters, which makes it hard to see patterns or grammar. And we don't know for sure which family of languages the Indus script belongs to.
It sounds like trying to put together a puzzle with only a few pieces and no picture on the box to guide you.
That's a great way to put it. But that doesn't mean we've given up. Scholars are still hard at work trying to crack the code using all sorts of methods from linguistic analysis to computer modeling.
What are some of the main theories about what kind of writing system it is?
The main debate is between those who think it's logographic, meaning that each symbol represents a whole word or concept, and those who think it's syllabic, where symbols represent syllables that make up words.
Can you imagine what we could learn if we could finally read those inscriptions?
It would completely change how we understand the Indus Valley Civilization. We might unlock the secrets of their religion, their social structures, their politics, their literature, their very thoughts and ideas. The seals, for example, often show animals, deities, and scenes from everyday life. It's like there are all these stories waiting to be told.
It's amazing to think that those stories are right there just waiting for someone to find the key.
And who knows, maybe with advances in artificial intelligence and machine learning, we're closer to that breakthrough than we think.
This is already mind-blowing. We've gone from the pyramids of Egypt to the standing stones of Stonehenge, and now we're face-to-face with the undeciphered script of the Indus Valley Civilization.
And believe me, our journey's far from over. Next time, we'll be exploring a mystery that's fascinated historians for ages, the collapse of the once mighty Mayan civilization.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
But we'll have to save that for part 2. Make sure you join us then as we continue our deep dive into the mysteries of antiquity. And hey, if you're enjoying this so far, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more explorations into the wonders of history.
Welcome back to our deep dive. Before we move on, I wanted to go back to something you said earlier about AI maybe helping us decipher that Indus script.
Right.
It's pretty amazing to think we could actually be close to finally figuring it out after all this time.
I know, it's really exciting. And it just shows you that how we understand the past is always changing.
Yeah.
New discoveries are happening all the time, and new technologies are giving us new ways to understand those discoveries. It's like this never-ending conversation with the past.
I like that, a never-ending conversation. And that brings us to our next topic, a mystery that's still causing a lot of debate, the collapse of the Mayan civilization.
Right.
And this wasn't just some small event. We're talking about a really sophisticated civilization that was around for over 2,000 years in Mesoamerica. They had these complex calendar systems, amazing buildings like the pyramids at Tikal and Chichen Itza, and even their own writing system.
Right.
But then by the 10th century, a lot of their major cities were just abandoned. Their building projects stopped, and their population went way down. What happened?
It's a question that's puzzled people for a long time. Was it one big catastrophic event, or was it like a slow decline caused by a bunch of different things?
That's the mystery of it all. There's no simple answer, no smoking gun.
Right.
Instead, researchers have found a whole bunch of interconnected things that probably contributed to the Mayan collapse. One theory is that they basically damaged their environment.
Okay.
You see, as the Maya cleared more and more rainforest for farming and to build their cities, they might have messed up the balance of nature,
Yeah.
This could have led to soil erosion, less rainfall, and less food being produced.
So they kind of outgrew their environment. They pushed their resources too far.
That's a possibility, and there's also evidence of long droughts during that time.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, paleoclimatologists have found evidence of really bad droughts in the Mayan heartland around the 9th and 10th centuries.
Wow.
These droughts have been terrible for their crops, leading to famine, social unrest, and maybe even wars between cities fighting over the few resources left.
So it's like a perfect storm of environmental problems, each one making the others worse.
Exactly. And it wasn't just the environment. There's also evidence of conflict within the Mayan civilization itself.
Oh, right.
Do you think political instability could have played a role in their decline?
It's definitely possible.
Mm,
I mean, they had this shared culture and belief system, but they're also divided into these independent city-states,
right.
each with its own ruler and often competing with each other for power and resources.
And there's plenty of evidence that they fought wars against each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, internal conflicts and a divided political landscape probably weakened the civilization, making them more vulnerable to environmental problems and other threats.
It's interesting how all these things, environmental, social, political, heart, they all seem to connect and contribute to the Mayan collapse.
Yeah.
It reminds us that civilizations, no matter how advanced, can be affected by the forces of history, by this delicate balance between human ambition and what our environment can handle.
That's a great point, and it's something that's relevant to us today, too.
Oh, absolutely.
As we face challenges like climate change, resource depletion, and political instability, the Mayan collapse shows us that even the most impressive civilizations can be fragile.
It's a sobering thought, but it's also a reminder that studying the past can give us insights into the present and maybe even help us learn from the mistakes of those who came before us.
Exactly. Speaking of learning from the past, let's switch gears now and talk about a mystery that's captured people's imaginations for a long time. A mystery that makes us feel awe, wonder, and come up with all sorts of theories, the Nazca Lines.
Ah, the Nazca Lines, those mysterious geoglyphs carved into the desert of southern Peru. Those giant figures of animals, plants, and geometric shapes that you can really only see from the air. They've been the subject of so many documentaries, books, even some conspiracy theories.
And for good reason, they're truly amazing. Imagine standing there on the ground, surrounded by what looks like random lines and patterns etched into the desert.
Right.
You can only see the true scale and beauty of the Nazca Lines when you're up in a plane soaring over the landscape.
It's hard to imagine how much work went into making those designs.
No, it's mind-blowing.
They're enormous. Some of them are hundreds of meters long, and they were created by carefully removing the dark pebbles that cover the desert floor to reveal the lighter earth underneath. How did they do it, and maybe even more importantly, why?
Now, those are the real questions, aren't they? How do people without modern tools or aerial photography manage to create these huge and precise designs? And what was their purpose? Was it art, a religious expression, a way to communicate with gods, or, as some people believe, a landing strip for ancient aliens?
Okay, I have to admit, the alien theory is pretty interesting, but let's start with the more down-to-earth explanations. What are some of the main theories among archaeologists and anthropologists?
Well, one common idea is that the Nazca Lines were made for religious ceremonies or rituals.
Okay.
Some think they were used as pathways for processions, with people walking along the lines during festivals. Others say the figures represent constellations or other celestial objects, and the lines were used for astronomical observations or to connect with the cosmos.
That makes sense, given how important astronomy was to ancient cultures, like we've been talking about. They saw a strong connection between Earth and the heavens.
Exactly. And when it comes to the Nazca Lines, there's also the idea that they were linked to water sources or irrigation systems.
Oh, interesting.
See, the Nazca region is incredibly dry water, was very valuable.
Right.
Some researchers think the lines might have been a way to map out underground water sources or to direct rainwater for farming.
So they could have been both practical and symbolic, meeting both earthly and spiritual needs. It's amazing how all these different theories can exist, each giving us a different perspective on the mystery.
And that's what makes the Nazca Lines so captivating. They're like a blank canvas where we can project our own interpretations, our own sense of wonder and curiosity. They make us think about all the possibilities and push the limits of our imagination.
It's like they're reminding us that we still have so much to learn about the past, and that some mysteries might never be fully solved. But isn't that part of the beauty of it all? It's the pursuit of knowledge, the desire to understand that keeps us going.
Well said. And speaking of pushing the limits of our understanding in the final part of our deep dive, we'll look at some of the alternative theories and interpretations of these ancient mysteries, and we'll explore how modern technology is helping us uncover the secrets of the past.
And we're back for our final part of this deep dive. We've been from the pyramids of Egypt to the English countryside, explored the mystery of the Indus script, and pondered the fall of the Mayan civilization.
It has been quite a journey.
It really has. And along the way, we keep coming back to this question of, did ancient civilizations have technologies or knowledge that we've lost over time?
It's a fascinating thought, isn't it?
It really is, to think that our ancestors might have known things that we're only just starting to rediscover.
Right.
It's a question that comes up a lot, especially when we look at these amazing feats of engineering and science from the past, like the Great Pyramid,
Oh, yeah.
the precision of those massive blocks, how they were cut and fit together, the alignment with the cardinal points, and even the specific stars.
Yeah.
It's easy to see why people wonder about lost technologies.
I agree. The idea of lost knowledge is definitely intriguing. And it's not just the pyramids that make you think that way. Think about how they moved those huge blue stones to Stonehenge.
Yeah.
Or the incredibly advanced city planning in the Indus Valley. It makes you wonder if they had techniques or tools that have been lost to history.
But how do we approach this question from a scholarly point of view? I mean, it's easy to get caught up in speculation and conspiracy theories, but there's a big difference between cool ideas and actual evidence.
You're absolutely right. We have to be careful not to romanticize the past or assume that ancient cultures were just like us. Just because we haven't found archaeological proof of a specific technology doesn't mean it never existed. But it also doesn't mean we can just make up explanations that fit our own ideas.
So how do we balance being open-minded with being critical thinkers? How can we explore the possibilities of lost knowledge without falling for baseless theories?
It all comes down to evidence, to using the pieces of the puzzle we have to put together the bigger picture. And luckily, we live in a time where new technology is completely changing how we can investigate the past.
You're talking about things like ground-penetrating radar, LiDAR 3D modeling, DNA analysis, all those tools that let us see below the surface, recreate ancient environments, and trace how ancient people moved and interacted.
Exactly. Those technologies are giving us an incredible new view of the past, revealing details and connections that we couldn't see before.
It's amazing.
We can now look inside pyramids without damaging them, map out entire cities buried for centuries, and even analyze the DNA of ancient skeletons to understand migration patterns and how cultures mixed.
It's incredible to think that we're still making groundbreaking discoveries about civilizations that existed thousands of years ago. It really shows that our understanding of the past is constantly growing and changing.
And that's what makes it so exciting. There's always something new to learn, some new piece of the puzzle to find. For instance, recent discoveries using ground-penetrating radar have shown hidden chambers and passageways within the Great Pyramid.
Really?
Yeah, there's still so much to discover about that incredible structure.
It's mind-blowing to think about what else might be out there, hidden under layers of time, just waiting to be found.
And it's not just about finding physical things. These new technologies are helping us understand the people who created these civilizations, their everyday lives, their beliefs, how they interacted with their environment. We're going beyond the stories of kings and wars to explore the lives of regular people, the farmers, the craftspeople, the traders, the families who made up these societies.
It's like we can finally hear the voices of those who are often overlooked by history. We can see the past from their perspective.
Precisely. And as we learn more about their individual stories, we get a much richer and more detailed understanding of how complex ancient civilizations were. We're realizing that they weren't just single units, but diverse and dynamic societies with their own internal struggles, innovations, and ways of adapting.
It's a great reminder that the past is never truly settled. History is a conversation that keeps going, constantly being reinterpreted and reshaped as new evidence comes to light and new viewpoints emerge.
You're right, and maybe that's the most important lesson from our deep dive into these mysteries. It's not about finding all the answers, but about embracing the journey of discovery, about recognizing that we don't know everything, and about appreciating the power of human curiosity and innovation.
I love that. And as we wrap up this episode, I'd like to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Yeah.
We've talked about the possibility of lost technologies, the challenges of understanding the past, and the amazing potential of new discoveries. But maybe the biggest mystery isn't what ancient civilizations knew, but how they thought.
Oh, that's interesting.
What was their worldview like? How did they see themselves in relation to the cosmos? What values and beliefs guided their decisions and actions?
That's a deep question, and it challenges us to step out of our own modern ways of thinking and try to see the world as they did.
Right.
It means we need to be empathetic to imagine different possibilities and to admit that our own understanding is limited. Maybe by trying to understand the minds of our ancestors, we can also understand ourselves better.
This has been an incredible journey. A huge thank you to our expert for leading us through these amazing mysteries. And to all of you listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your fellow history buffs. We'll be back soon with another fascinating look into the wonders of the past. Until then, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and never stop learning.